Welcome to the Unlimited podcast, or Unlimited with Leigh and Eoin. This is the recording. This is AI version of Owen's voice. We're going to leave that in the podcast, surely.
We should do that. We should get an intro made by AI voiceover. That'd be great.
Leigh, it's a great time of year. It's a great time of year to discuss planning.
Oh, never been a better time, has there?
It's a fantastic time of year to discuss planning and why planning is important and what our thoughts are around planning, especially, coming to the end of 2023, moving into the start of 2024. Now is a good time to start thinking about 2024 because the holiday season, especially in the world of hair, becomes extremely busy and a little bit overwhelming. And I've been put through that cannon and I just get shot out on the other side in January. And I'm like, oh shit, here I am in the new year and I don't know what the fuck is going on. So for you, it's a large conversation, but for you, what is the importance of planning and why do you feel like planning is a thing that you like to do?
Well, I like your point before we get into that. I like your point on, especially for hair professionals right now, like there's never been a better time to plan than right now, especially where we're at. It's November, it's mid-November, coming to the end of November. December, we're all going to be, I don't like to speak these things into existence, but everybody talks about the crazy season and the silly season and all this stuff. And again, it's all perspective. It's only as silly and as crazy as you make it. But right now is such a good time to start setting your intentions for the new year. Start creating that bucket list for the next coming season, because I feel like in the past when I've made my kind of intentions for the next year in January, they've been a bit rushed and like last minute. And I just start writing down any old thing. Whereas if we can start to have a look at the year past, debrief it, and then plan into 2024 and hit the ground running in January, I think that's a really beneficial thing. Now, an interesting thing that happens here in Australia is it's a bit backwards for us, because us being from Northern Hemisphere, UK, England, Ireland backgrounds, our seasons are completely backwards. So it's coming into summer here in Australia and everybody takes January off. January is like, it's known. Don't ask anybody to do anything in January because it won't get done. Well, for us, we're back to, in our home cities and towns, we're back to work January 4th or 2nd, 3rd, whatever it is. It comes back around, we're back to it. So I think not just completely writing off January is sometimes counterintuitive, because you can miss a golden opportunity to set up your year really, really well. And you miss a whole month, like 30 days, you're not going to get that month back. So that's where I'll start with that, is like just setting a bit of like preface on the grounds into why planning is so important and some of the things that we see happen. That's why we say there's never been a better time than now to plan. And I'll say that every day, probably for the rest of my life, because there's always a good time to plan. It's always a good time to debrief. It's always a good time to have a look at what's been happening and what you'd like to happen. Yeah, that's something that I see. And for me, the power of having my stuff ready to hit the ground running January 1 has worked for me for a long time. And I was just checking my list the other day of all the things that I wanted to get done in 2023, this year just gone. And there's a list of like 25 to 30 things, and I think 95% of them got done already. And the things I didn't get done are just things that became irrelevant after a while. They're things I thought I wanted to do, but then realised I didn't want to do. So, but that's good. You know, a lot of the big things got done. So yeah, how do you feel on that? Like the whole missing out on January thing. It's quite an interesting concept, isn't it? Because I feel like that can hold people back, right? Like if, you know, you wait until February, we're already, you know, for us, we'll be 30 days into the global barbers. We'll be 30 days into our plan. You know, we're a month ahead.
Yes. As you know me pretty well by now. I'm not a very seasonal kind of guy. It doesn't mean I'm the Grinch. It doesn't mean that I don't like holidays. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means that I don't treat my life like that. Like, you know, there's larger seasons in terms of periods of time where I might be going through a certain thing, but I'm not a seasonal guy when it comes to the holidays and like having to just buy into that whole marketing campaign, because essentially that's kind of what it is in a large spectrum. But yeah, I mean, look, loads of points there that you made that we could rabbit hole off on, but one of them that I heard was planning in the micro and planning in the macro, and I think that's a really big thing to touch on, because a lot of the time people will plan in the micro but never plan in the macro. So all of the micro movements are kind of moving them towards nothing, or actually towards the things that they don't really want in their lives, without any kind of major vision on what the macro actually is. So, you know, we've luckily over the last, 2 or 3 years, we've really kind of dialed in on certain periods of planning where we'll get together, multiple times per year and just look at, okay, what's relevant right now, what's not relevant anymore. Because that's the thing, if you don't regularly check in on a plan, how do you know that these things are still relevant? And, something Tony Robbins taught us was like only 3% of the population ever write down their goals. So it's not hard to become uncommon amongst the common by writing your goals down. But actually planning regularly and achieving your goals, planning is one thing, execution is another thing. Actually achieving them is another thing. So can you imagine the percentage of the 3% who actually complete them? Not going to be a large number. Now, the goal is to become the uncommon amongst the uncommon. Becoming the uncommon amongst the common is pretty easy. Like, you've got a 97% chance if you just write down some goals. But then it's like, what type of goals? Like, how specific are they? How measurable are they? And we won't get into the SMART system. We'll keep that for our free training that's coming up soon. But yeah, how specific are the goals and where are they derived from? Because goals are only, for me, landmarks or like checkpoints on the way to the bigger vision or the bigger plan. And a lot of the time we inherit goals from other people that don't serve our future any purpose. They're just inherited. Oh, I seen somebody with a Lambo on Instagram, I want a Lambo. But does the Lambo inherently give you any value in your life other than the fact that you get to put it on Instagram and get the same attention that you just admired? Probably not. It's a lot of fucking freedom in a Lambo, like in terms of what you can do with that money. So
tons of freedom tokens in there, isn't there?
Quite a lot. But yeah, planning for me has always been something that's been really important. I feel it started at an early age due to sport. I always had, when I got to a certain level of sport, I always had coaches and they would put together training plans for me and I would follow the training plan. It gave me a lot of structure in my life, having a routine, having structure comes with a lot of mental health benefits as well. It gives us and fulfills some of our human needs for growth and progress. And it takes guessing out of life. You know, like why do we need to keep guessing? We don't have to anymore. All of the answers are out there. Like, it's just about finding them and connecting with the people for you and the people that can help you. So yeah, there's a bit of a paradox in planning, because if you don't plan, you're still planning, but you're planning for uncertainty, and you're kind of living from a place of uncertainty rather than living from a place of certainty. And that's the other paradox of human needs. It's like we need certainty and we need uncertainty. But that's why, you know, you can get both of those things through planning if you just make your goals big enough, because you're like uncertain that you're going to get there, but you're certain that along the way you're going to get somewhere good.
Or what is it, like shoot for the stars and land on the moon or something like that?
I shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars.
Okay, that one. There you go.
Yeah.
But
that's your new tattoo.
I love it. There's so much in there.
Are you going to get that tattooed on you, or?
Yeah, like here, like under my eye. Just let everyone know. You know, it's what I'm about. I wear my life on my face.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, you got to do it.
There's so much in there. I love the whole topic, and someone we speak to in our coaching group AMP is about designing your time, right? Like some people don't like the idea of micromanaging their time because they feel like they're limited. It limits them, or it puts them in a box. Whereas what we've learned and what we know is that in those limitations comes freedom. If you put a structure to your time and design it right, you actually set yourself free, because you can actually confirm that you're going to get some things done. So there's going to be certainty that certain things are going to happen. Regardless, I love what you said there, regardless of what you think you're doing, what you like, what you don't like, you are designing your time regardless. Your life is a direct sum total of all the decisions and the way that you've designed your time until now. So whether you think you are or whether you think you're not, they're both right. Your life is the sum total of all of how you've been spending your time to now. And I love that. And once we understand that, that's when the magic starts to happen. It's like, oh, okay, so even if I don't want to plan, that's me still designing my time in a way that might not be beneficial. So I'm going to do something about that. And it's magical, like what we've noticed in the last 2-3 years, like you said, just exponential growth. I think we've even surprised ourselves at times at what we've achieved, the things we've ticked off. I wouldn't want to go without it now, without a good plan. I think to keep guessing from this point is a silly idea. Like you said, life's too short, right? Like that's why information exists, because life is too short to keep guessing. Now the paradox there is life is long enough if you use it wisely. If you use it well, life is long enough, but it's also short. It's also too short to keep guessing. So the power is in the plan. How are we going to design our time is the big one. And to your point of like the micro and the macro, the macro is the plan needs a plan, right? Like, so it's like a good football team. Well, what are you doing? Scoring goals. Why are you scoring goals? Oh, it's just what we do. Is it to win X amount of games so we can win the league, and then we can do this and we can do this? If we're just scoring goals, we don't know how many goals we need to score. We don't know why we're doing it. We're just kicking the ball and kicking it around and kicking the net and hoping that something's going to happen. We've got no idea what we're doing. The plan also needs a plan.
Yes. And that's when it becomes high level.
Yes. And we take people into that deep dive in our coaching group. And that's one of the really powerful things about it, and we implement that early. You know, I feel like week 1 is just breaking down your old beliefs, getting rid of the cobwebs. Week 2 is, okay, let's put your life on turbocharge and plan this shit out, take it to a new level.
Yeah, what you said there about the plan needing a plan, that's something that I'm still grappling with every day, in terms of like making traction in a direction that makes sense, because a lot of the time I've just got up and started working at things and doing things and responding to messages or responding to emails or whatever it was, and thinking that I was a big businessman and very productive and doing all of these things and getting places. But what I've come to realize, and like I've said this in the podcast multiple times now, is sometimes it just takes sitting back and observing what's going on and what actually makes the most sense. Because one of the biggest roadblocks or complaints or objections I hear from people in 2023 and in the future, and it's historically always been the same, is people not having enough time. And how can you not have enough time when you have all of it? It's just how you spend your time and how you plan to spend your time. You know, every single person listening to this, I implore you, I can guarantee you can find an extra hour in your week somewhere to do something. It's just how you're spending your time directly correlates to how your energy is going to be on a day-to-day basis. And we need energy to do anything. Energy is the main currency of life. You know, it is literally the main currency of life. We can't do anything without energy. You know, people might have time, but they don't have energy, and that's the thing. So planning for our goals and planning for our success and planning for all of the things that we want to do is important, but what's equally important is planning for rest, recovery, and time to integrate, and sleep and nutrition. You know, I'm spending a lot more time these days on all of that stuff, so that when I do work, which is still, I would say for right now, quite a lot. So, but not really at the same time, you know, like it's high level when it is happening, because it's thought about. Like, you know, I sit down at the start of pretty much every day and look at, like, at the end of every week, I sit down and I write like maybe a list of things that just pop into my mind that needs to be done for the week. So I'll sit down at the start of every day, and I'll look at the list and say, okay, well, you know, like you always say, Leigh, what are the nice to do's and what are the need to do's? Because in the past, I would have got caught up a lot in the nice to do's and doing shit that doesn't actually move the needle or doesn't make sense to do right now, but is nice to do and might make me feel good. It might get me the dopamine hit. It might do all of these things, but then what am I doing? I'm wasting battery. And I like to look at it like that too, right? Like our energy levels, our mind. And this is actually a bit of a limiting belief of mine, and I'm still working through it since the Tony Robbins event. But thinking that my energy is limited and that I can only do certain tasks at certain times of the day, like I need to let go of that slightly, because sometimes, like what I started to notice lately with my energy levels is that it takes me a couple of hours to even wake up. You know, like I feel on right now, like it's 11:41 a.m. in Melbourne on a Tuesday, and I woke up this morning at like 6 a.m. but I only feel on in the last kind of like hour and a bit, you know. So planning for our rest and recovery is equally as important as planning to do the shit that we want to do, because like Hormozy always says as well, like at a certain point, at what stage are we actually not making progress? He uses a certain word for it. I'm trying to think about it now. But it's like when his output, I think it is, when his output starts to be affected by his energy levels of like the input, like if he's running at 20% trying to do a task that needs 100%, it's going to take 5 times longer to get it done than doing it at 100%. So like it's the whole concept of working harder versus working smarter, because you know, if you look at a real savvy business person or somebody who's really thinking about life in the most maximum way possible, somebody who optimizes and plans to have their time be the most valuable thing that they have as an asset. You know, if you give them 3 hours to knock down a tree, they'll spend the first 2.5 hours sharpening the axe. And the person who doesn't think about it and just goes at the task and starts fucking trying to beat this tree down with a blunt axe, it might take them double the amount of time and double the amount of effort to get the same result. So I have a thing written on my wall here. And, you know, you've heard us talk about this plenty of times, guys, the 80-20 rule. And it says, how can I get 80% of the results by doing 20% of the work? And that slows me down every single morning when I read that. And above that is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Instead of doing all the things and just distracting myself and being busy and jumping into it. But what trains that? The fucking hair industry trains that. Gotta keep moving. 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Next appointment. Keep it fucking moving. Keep the conveyor belt going, because it's a volume game. And what I've realized is quality matters more than quantity. And it leads to a more quality life. That's
yeah,
my TED Talk.
I really want to talk about... Thanks for coming.
That's my TED Talk. Thanks, guys. Shout out to Global Barbers, Spotswood. This is not an ad.
This is not a paid ad.
Matt and the team, Melbourne, one of our coaching clients. Head down there, see Matt. He's a great guy.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that a little bit. You know, the 80-20 rule and everything we do, and it's that requires a plan, right? Like even like you were speaking about the social media thing, you know, you can get really like, you know, if you were savvy, if most people were savvy and they wanted a plan around it, you could be effective in 2 hours, I think. Like an hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon. Like if you pie chart that and be like, right, what's going to be replying to DMs, what's going to be getting back to comments, what's going to be lining up some potential sales calls, what's going to be this, just spend an hour doing that. Like even like there's certain time for cold DMs, there's certain time for commenting on other people's stuff, like whatever. That's your hour pie chart. And then maybe like a short bit of time to post, because the content creation can be done outside of that. But actually spending time on the app, I think you can be quite effective an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. But a lot of people don't want to see it that way, you know, like, oh, well, that's limiting. It's like, yeah, well, what are you using it for though? Is it a business tool, or is it just another distraction? Because if you want to just go on and not have a plan for how you're going to spend your time on your business tool, it will become a distraction. Now, the caveat here is, if you don't care, it doesn't matter. Like if you don't care what happens when you open up your phone and you're like, well, if I spend 3 minutes here or 3 hours here, it doesn't matter. Do what you want. Do whatever you want. But for us and like the people that we work with, usually, and most people, oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, you know, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. Okay, then. Well, you might have to put a plan in place for how you're spending your time on these things. So like everything requires a plan if you want to squeeze the juice from it and if you want to see certain results from certain things. Like I said, if you don't care, it doesn't matter. But that's not many people. When we speak to a lot of people, like their common issue is they don't have enough time, or they don't know what to do with their time. What's what's high level, what's not, what do I do first. And I think having that plan in place for every hour, I know it sounds controlling, but trust me, if you really listen back to that, what I just said, we've literally just explained to you the freedom in the plan. No longer do you have to spend 3 hours fumbling through social media, wondering, do I get back to this person, blah, 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 blah. I've got an hour. This is how I'm going to break it up. Blah, 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 blah. Free. Okay, I'm off. And I'll do that again this afternoon. For me, it just works out way more productive that way. And it's like everything, even our rest time. Rest time can be planned as well. You know, I've toyed with the idea of having like unplanned rest time as well, but that didn't go very well because, again, I spent time guessing and just wondering what I was going to do in that time. All of it requires a plan. So what am I going to do? Yeah, all right, I'm sleeping for 8 hours. What am I going to do an hour before I run into sleep? What am I going to do the hour when I wake up? What am I going to do the hour after that, and the hour after that, and the hour after that? It's massive. Like we say, life's too short to keep guessing, and our life is a direct representation of all the decisions we've made till now. And if we want a different result, we got to make different decisions, and that requires a plan. So for all the creative people out there that I don't want a plan because I'm a free-flowing, starseed, okay, but you can't ever complain about the results that you get in life. And just to put it out to, the universe will deliver it to me and, I'm going to manifest it. Well, yeah, good luck doing that without a plan. Because that is the power of manifestation. And that's just how it works. It's not going to work without taking steps towards the thing. You have to walk with the energy of that you're going to get it. We have got it. Laws of attraction, baby.
I would go as far as to say planning is the very essence of manifestation itself. You're putting it out into the ether, you're writing it down, you're making it real. The way we plan with people, it brings it into the present tense. It brings it to the present and the future tense, so it puts them in a future position of this has already happened. So it's the very essence of manifestation itself. The most, creative people in the world all have a plan when it comes to expressing their creativity, whether they're conscious to it or not. I met this guy on a plane on the way to Tasmania, and he was an artist, and he was going over there to do a portrait for somebody, like a commission piece. And Hannah was speaking to him most of the time, and I wasn't really in the mood to speak to anyone. I was just tired and couldn't be arsed. So he was a lovely guy, by the way, but Hannah was speaking away to him, and as it neared the end of the flight and it got towards the end of the conversation, I just asked him one question. I was like, I'm really interested to know, when you're doing your paintings, like, and when you're doing your portraits, like, do you have a plan? Like, do you have structure around it, or do you just let the winds tell you where to go with it, And he was like, no, I always start with the eyes, and then the nose, and then the lips, and then that kind of just gives me the structure for the rest of it, and I get the outline of the face, the bone structure of the face, and then like I just had to fill in the details, and it's like, okay, so even the quote-unquote artists and creatives of the world even have a plan when it comes to their art and their creativity. It's the same thing with a haircut, Even the most creative and wild hairdressers in the world, they all reverse engineer it one way or another. It's not like they're doing one part of the haircut and then, being spun around 10 times and being like, okay, here you are at the back, like, do something here now. It's like, no, it's all broken down. Like, it's not bloody musical chairs. Like, I don't know if that's a good analogy, but like, it's not that. It requires a plan, like all of it. Whether we're conscious of the plan or not, we approach it with our decisions too. And right, like in a shop floor sense, when I can relate this to the barbering world, or I can relate it to the hairdressing world, we need to make these decisions quickly, and we need to make these plans quickly. And the better, who can relate to this, the better that we've made these decisions and made these plans, the more efficient and effective the results are. And it's the same thing in our lives. When it comes to how we design our time, how we spend our days, how we structure our lives. And yeah, some people, like, Hannah will look at my calendar and think, oh my God, like that just gives me anxiety. And it does the opposite for me, actually. It does the opposite for me. And like you were saying there, Leigh, and speaking to like the unplanned rest time, I think for me that kind of works. Like if I knew today that I had like 3-4 hours to kind of do whatever I want, like I might still work in that time if that's what I felt like doing, or I might still do something related to what I'm doing in that time. But it's structured and it's planned for. So like when I'm doing it, I don't know if there's any business owners listening to this, but as a business owner, taking time off and not working on your business or not doing something usually brings them a sense of anxiety or guilt that they're not doing something, or they could be more productive, or they could be doing more. And I've experienced this myself, and it's only come from the lack of having a plan. Because once there's a plan in place, we don't get caught up in the short term micro results, because there is a plan for the longer term. Like we start judging ourselves on the micro results if there's no macro plan. And it's irrelevant, and it's actually silly. It's a silly thing to do, because anything that's worth having and is of value takes time, in my opinion, from what I've witnessed, and like I'm so fortunate that before coming into this industry and before getting into business, that I went through, and I firmly believe that this all plays a pivotal part and a pivotal role in who I am today. I'm so happy that I was able to do what I did with cycling, because I essentially had a goal or an objective, an outcome that I wanted to achieve. I looked at it as this big thing. I want to become a professional cyclist. And then I broke it down. Okay, like how am I going to get to that place? And what am I going to need along the way? What am I going to need to get rid of in my life in order to achieve this? Because I couldn't be going out drinking with my friends. I couldn't be going out partying. I had to make certain, for lack of a better word, sacrifices. But they weren't a sacrifice. They were only a sacrifice based on society's standards for people of my age at that time. They weren't a sacrifice for me because they were part of the plan. It was part of the plan that I had signed up for. So it wasn't like I missed out on anything. I actually gained so much more than all of my peers growing up, because I got to witness manifestation coming into fruition through having a really solid plan. I set that goal when I was 16 or 15. And then I did the things that were required in order to get to the goal. I moved to Belgium when I was 17 years old. I figured out, like, okay, I need to get on a team in a country where I might get spotted, or I'll be able to race at such a high level that it will bring me up to where I need to be. Because if I stay in Ireland, I'm only ever going to be down here. I need to surround myself and put myself in the environment and immerse myself, go full immersion into Belgium and be in that world. And I went there and I got my fucking ass kicked for like years. Like, I had this memory pop up the other day. I was driving home and with Hannah, and this cyclist was on the road and it was dark. And I was just like, this flashback came to me of when I was like 17 and I was in Belgium And at the time I was there by myself and I was living by myself. I didn't have anything to, like, no cooking facilities in the apartment. I was eating like tins of fucking rice pudding for dinner. And I remember I had to find my own way to some races. Like, I had to look it up on the map in a non-English speaking country at 17, look it up on the map and ride to the race, like with a backpack on my back with spare clothes in it for the race, do the race. So like this particular day that I remembered, I rode about 2 hours to the race. Did it, at the time it was a junior race, so I did 90k race, which is probably another 2 hours ish, and then I had to ride 2 hours home. And I remember riding home and I got my ass kicked in the race. I didn't do good in the race, and I remember riding home and it was dark and I'm getting a bit lost and just like bursting into tears, like crying, like just thinking, is this it? Like, you know, like, is this what I'm signing up for here? But then I remembered the bigger picture and the bigger plan and the bigger goal, and it's like, I'm not getting caught up in today. Like, this is just one day. Like, what are the lessons from this? What is the feedback? What are the learnings? What can I do next in order to avoid that happening again? Okay, well, next time maybe I'll ask some more people if they can bring me to the race so that I don't spend 2 hours trying to get there and the stress of trying to get there and find it actually affected my performance in the race. So, you know, I had a system for feedback, and I had a coach as well at the time who I was able to talk to and speak to, and he would give me advice. And then, you know, my coach actually connected me with a lot of people who then brought me to the races. So like, every little piece of the puzzle makes sense and has a purpose. And, you know, I'm just so fortunate that I got to discover all of that at such a young age, and it continued to compound as I went through my career as a cyclist. And I did things in that space that I never thought that I could do, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without a plan. And it's all well and good to, like, I had this download the other day, and I'm going to probably turn it into an Instagram post. It probably will be out before this podcast. But it's like, I don't have dreams. I have goals. And non-believers have dreams. And believers have goals. Because a dream is something that's far away. Like, yeah, and you know, it could be a figure of speech. But like, words have meaning, and the quantum is listening to words. You know? Words are spells. That's why it's called spelling. So how we word these things, how we show up like that, it's like, oh, it's just, you know, chasing the dream. Like, I'm sure some of you guys might have heard us speak about this before. Just chasing the dream. It's like, no, don't chase the dream. Be the dream. Be it. Do it. Set goals. Make it a goal, not a dream. Yeah, have it. So, yeah. I think what stops most people from that, though, and this is just from experience, is not having evidence that things are possible. And to tie it into that whole cycling story, I know that's quite a rabbit hole, but what cycling did for me was it provided me with evidence that if I apply myself for a long enough period of time to something with a solid plan in place, and I don't get caught up too much in the micro and always focus on the macro and take rest and recovery when it's needed and push hard when it's needed, the result will come.
Yep. Similar thing for me. Like, I love that story, and same thing. A piece of advice I'd give a lot of people is, like, find something that takes a long time to do. Like, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people find it hard to adhere to a plan is because we're in the instant gratification world. Like, a lot of people can't adhere to a plan because it takes too long for a lot of people. Now that's a sad place to be, because I had a similar experience from the age of like 20 when I first got into bodybuilding. Try and find a sport that takes longer than that. Like it's diminishing returns every year. Not diminishing returns, but it's slower returns every year. It's not compound interest. It slows the hell down. Like it's like the opposite of the stock market. It's like year one, newbie gains. You're like, whoa, I'm growing. You might grow, I don't know, you might put on 10 kilos in your first year. Next year you put on 5. It's like, whoa, what happened? Year after that, you put on 2. The year after that, you put on 1. The year after that, 500 grams. And then, but the idea is that that's how the game goes, and it takes a long time. And that's an amazing training for the brain. Now that sounds like it's crazy for some people. Like, why would you do that? But what it teaches you is that some things just take time, and sometimes it pays to have delayed gratification. And that's what it taught me. And the difference, I think, from that is, growing up, I played a lot of hockey, and, I had some talent there. I could have gone and played pro in Europe and all that kind of stuff. But the difference was I didn't have a plan. The coaches around me never gave me a plan. And I think if I had a plan, I was so stubborn on execution. Like my value system was built in getting the thing done, high achiever, and adhering. I think I'd probably be playing pro hockey by like now. I don't know if my hair career would have came in place, because that would have changed the trajectory of my adult years. So that's quite an interesting reflection. There is like the difference between when I started taking up bodybuilding and the difference between my hockey career was like one had a plan, one didn't. And what was the difference? Well, I found a coach really early. Like you just said, I found somebody who was already doing the thing that I wanted to do, to show me that it was doable. And because I did it naturally as well, I didn't take any steroids or growth hormone or any peptides, anything like that. It was even slower. So I really locked in for the long game. And, I went 7 years doing that, and eventually got to a place where I was very happy. But again, like you were saying, that there were nights, I'd do like 5 months of dieting to go into a show, and there were nights where I was like, that's it, I'm done. I was starving, it's like controlled starvation. And I'd be like, that's it. I'm just going to go finish off that jar of peanut butter. I'm going to go and do it. And then I would just remind myself, but remember, if you don't, you'll wake up in the morning, you'll be that one step closer and better than you are today to get to the goal. And yeah, that's it. It just trains that mentality. My coach always used to say to me, he was like, think about this when, the day you don't want to do a cardio session. I'd have to do a friggin' hour just walking on a treadmill, twice a day sometimes. It was the most boring thing in the world. After doing all your weights, after controlled starvation. And he was like, look, think of this. You turn up and it's you and Dave, right? And you've each had 100 cardio sessions you need to do. He's done 100, you've done 99. He was like, don't let that one cardio session be the reason that you don't win. I just always had that mindset. My dad used to share that with me as well. Like, that's been drilled into me as a kid. Don't be the guy that does just enough. Because everybody does that. Creatures of comfort will do the bare minimum just to get by. Don't be the guy that does just enough. If you give that 10% extra, like you said at the start, it's not hard to be the uncommon amongst the common. All you need to do is give that 10% extra. If you build that into your plan, you're off to the races. You're going to have a great life. But also, if you can have delayed gratification and just understanding that turning up every day and giving that 10% extra of your own accord, not because someone else told you to, but of your own choice, because you have standards and you are a leader and you do want a great life for yourself. It's not hard to stand out. I think that's one of the secrets to why we do what we do, is because we're not afraid to do the 10% extra. For us, it's a lot of percent extra. And we understand the long game. Like, even when, we meet every day, and I feel like that's a planning session in itself. And I feel like there's like this unspoken agreement. It's like a 10-year plan. We're just thinking like, what can we decide for today and tomorrow that's going to benefit us in 10 years time? that's it. I think, to your sport, like cycling, you knew you weren't going to win the big race in Belgium this year, but you might do it in 5 years, but we keep going. It's the same with us. Like, we might not hit our targets this year, but we will. And we know the things we need to do in the meantime. But the only way to get there, to stop wasting that time, is our plan and some patience and just allowing yourself to push that 10% extra.
Yeah, I love it. Love that so much. I also want to add to that, like, the importance of environment, because, looking at the environment that you were in for your hockey years versus your environment for bodybuilding, there's a direct correlation to, like, the result versus the non-result. Not that it wasn't the non-result, but, like, it could have been only for the environment that you were in and, like, the people that you were with. And it's nothing against them or anything, but, like, they just didn't see it. Like, they couldn't see what you could see, or not even what you could see. Like, you couldn't see it because they couldn't see it. But you see, with cycling for me, like, I could see it, and with bodybuilding for you, you could see it because you went and you literally had to invest in yourself, I guess you could say, to put yourself in a container or an environment where that stuff was possible, that was a normal conversation. So, like, that's what I had to do in Belgium. Like, I had to change my environment in order for my plan to work out. And it takes, like, I haven't met many people in my life that have had similar experiences to me. You're one of them. I haven't met many people who have similar experiences or have had similar experiences. It's no fucking wonder that we're doing what we're doing. Like, it's obviously, like, given what we've gone through, and, a massive driving force behind it was the need for validation and trauma, but we won't go down that road today. What's the secret ingredient to your success? Like, I was laughing with Hannah the other day, and so, I'm going to be on a podcast this week, actually, with Eugene. Yeah, he asked me to be on his podcast, and it's like, imagine, like, I just laugh and thinking, oh, what's your secret to success? Trauma. But look, also, while it's on my mind, something came up there as well about, like, the modern day, and people, the spiritual people of the world will sometimes throw around, and I throw it around as well in the right context, but we're living in an and universe, not an or universe. And what I learned from sport is that isn't objectively true, because you can't do the partying and go and be a pro cyclist. You can't eat the pizzas and be a bodybuilder. Like, there's certain things that fall into that category, and there's certain things that don't. And I feel like the world, it's got so easy to survive in the last 10 years that people are just soft right now. Like, not nobody, that's a big fucking statement, but people don't want to work hard for shit. Not that, like, I know we spoke about working hard in the last podcast, but, like, when you work hard and you work smart together, when you work hard on the smart work with a plan, that is the secret sauce. That's the potion. That's the thing that's going to get you to where it is that you want to go. It's not just about working hard unconsciously, because that's kind of what that podcast spoke to. It's about putting sufficient effort into the things that are going to bring you the most return and the highest leverage towards your goals and your objectives and your plan. But if you don't know what that plan looks like, then you're just banging your head against a fucking wall or, like, a ceiling, or you just, I don't know, unconsciously moving forward or sideways or backwards. I don't know where the fuck you're moving. You don't need it.
In circles. Yeah, no one knows. Something I'll add to what we were previously talking about as well, in terms of, like, training and the plan and having a coach and that kind of stuff. It's like, if you come up against, you know, a difficult time, I'm not going to say struggle, or I want to stay off like the negative talk, but like, you know, if you come up against a difficult time in your life and you don't know, get help. There's something in this, there's a secret sauce in what you and I have both been talking about here. And what did we not do? We didn't guess. I didn't guess how to win a trophy at a bodybuilding competition. I got help. You didn't guess how to become a pro cyclist. You got help. Like, that was the difference between my hockey career and my bodybuilding career. It's like my hockey career, at some point, I was quite young as well. I finished up playing when I was like 19. I played for 10 years. I was like 9 when I started. I was 19 when I finished. A lot of the guesswork was up to me. Like, there were people that showed me how to play the game, but I had no plan for my career. And again, because I only knew one person that really did anything in a career sense, and they weren't in my environment. They lived in a completely different city. Anyway, the point of the story is, if you don't know and it's challenging and this is all confusing, associate with this. Okay, you have a challenge, fantastic, but guess what? There's people that already are 10 steps ahead of you and know this information. Now, back to my point at the start, there's never been a better day to plan than today. Why? Because you're never going to have more time than you have now, and it's never going to be cheaper than it is now. Get this. My first bodybuilding coach, right? And this is why it's important to listen to people like us. I'm just going to blow smoke up our ass right now because we deserve it. I'm going to go and deserve it energy right now. It's important to speak to people like us and ask for help from people like us. Why? Because we're on the journey too. We're hot on this stuff. We're happy to help you all. You're getting us at a hot time right now. Much like when I got my coach, I got him at a hot time. It was 2011, 2012. Instagram wasn't really a thing. He was doing a lot of his marketing on Facebook. I got my first coach via Facebook. He was a natural bodybuilder in the UK. Coaching plans weren't even a thing. He was still a PT in a gym, but I saw him coaching his clients in a gym in the UK from here. And I was like, I'm just going to ask this guy if he can give me some information online. Get this. He said, give me £50 a month. And he was like, I'll train you. I was like, what do I get for that? He was like, you get direct access to me via DM all week. I'll give you a training plan and I'll give you a nutrition plan. I'll update it every week. I was like, brilliant. Thank you very much. £50 a month. That was it. It cost me like $80 a month to get coaching from now. This is where the magic happens. 10 years later, where's this guy now? He's an IFBB pro, living in Dubai, and you can't get close to him for less than like 10K. Like, you want to do comp prep, it's going to cost you anywhere between 5 and 10K just for competition preparation. Secret sauce. Get these people while you can. That is why there's never been a better time than now. You will never have more time than you do now. Time has the same plan for all of us. We're all going to die. So how are you going to use it? And are you going to find the people that you need? Because if you don't, you can't complain with the results you get in life. Like Owen and I, we're both sitting here. We have examples of that. There was times in our life where we had no guidance, didn't get the results. We found the guidance, we got the guidance, we got the results from a great plan. Like, and we are still living examples of that. How many frigging coaching containers are we in now? We seem to be signing up for a new one every week at the moment. Like, why? Because we have a challenge and we go and find the help. At a time where we realize now is the time. We could let our money story creep in. I could let my money story creep in. Oh, that sounds expensive. Okay, guess what? It's going to be more expensive next year. And the year after. Exactly. And what's the dumb tax in between? You know, all right, the course costs 10K plus my dumb tax of $700,000. Like, hello. So, I don't know. That was my soapbox moment. That was my TED talk right there. to the power of it, like, guys, trust me. You know, we're not doing the things that we do by guesswork. This isn't guesswork. and it hasn't been guesswork. You know, people can say what they want. External sources will say what they want about what we do. It hasn't been guesswork. We've sought help from arguably some of the best people at this in the world. Always have. When it was our, you know, for you in your cycling career, for me in my bodybuilding career, the guy that is an IFBB pro, you have to be one of the best in the world to become an IFBB pro. Hair, we did the same thing. We sought out help from the best in the world for a long time. Now our business game for the last, 3, 4, 5 years, we're also seeking help from the best in the world. Like,
there's
success leaves clues. There's a pattern. There's a clear pattern.
There's a pattern. I actually, when I was growing up, I've had multiple coaches as a cyclist, and I also outgrew the coaches that I was with for where I was at certain times, and not saying that in a bad way, but it got to a point where I had one coach and he basically told me that I wouldn't be a pro, and that I should study in school and like look after my schooling and stuff like that. So then I was like, okay, I need to find a new coach. I didn't make that mean something about me even at that age. I was like, okay, I need to find a new coach because this guy hasn't seen it. So I went and got a coach who coached pros. So he knows the pathway, he knows the journey, he knows what training plans he gave them so that they turned pro. Like, so it wasn't guesswork either.
And something I'm hearing in there, which was something that was on my mind from what I was speaking about, is like, wasn't just the training plan, was it? What you needed a different environment and different words being spoken to you. That was a mindset shift as well. You needed somebody else who had a yes mindset and a we're going to win mindset, like winning energy. It was the same for me. Like, early days, I remember when I was in my young 20s, when Ty Lopez started blowing up online, I bought one of his courses, and now people would give him shit. But like, he says a great thing. He was like, you don't use the words it's hard around me. He was like, nothing's hard, everything's easy. He was like, we just got to find a way. It's winning mindset. It's yes mindset. It can all be done. We just got to find a way. And I love that. And that became the voice that was in my head. That became my environment from afar. And then you apply strategy to that as well. But that was, that's everything. It's find those people that say yes. It's a yes mentality, yes mindset. Put a killer plan to that, you're off to the races.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And it's funny that you say that, because there is a pattern there, and we're up to today. Like, we literally signed up for a new coaching program today, and we're signing up for another one probably today or tomorrow. So we're going to be part of 2 coaching containers simultaneously to coach us on the areas of our business that we're not the best at, or that we could improve in, and that we need in order to achieve our plan. We can keep trying doing things the way that we know up to now, but we're not going to get the results for us, and we're not going to get the results for people that we work with, because this is the other side of things. This is the other side of things, right? Like, the planning process that we use now is an iteration of a planning process that I learned in a coaching group that cost me nearly $60,000 to be part of. And people who come into our space are getting it for 10 times less. 10 times less. They're getting it for 5k essentially, So that's skipping past, like, you don't just save time, you save money too. Like, we have to kind of carve the way for the people that end up coming into our world. And there's a pattern in that too. It's not just us that have done that. All of the people have done that. The people that we learn from have done that too. And it's like this big trickling down process of like, okay, we'll forge the way, we'll take the hit, and we'll then share it with people for much less.
I think something as well, like a pattern that is coming up is like, we need to find these experts. The reason I think between us, we're in like 4 coaching groups between us. Like it's wild. But the reason being is because we also need to curate our environment, because where we're going is not a common path. I don't know anyone in my general vicinity who's done what we want to do. Those people aren't in our circle. So we need to go and find them. And again, what did we say earlier? If you've got a challenge, ask for help. And anyone, and the thing is, if you could settle into the idea that everything great requires a plan, that's when you get the most out of the help, because anybody who is going to help you is going to give you a plan. And that, but back to our point on that, like that's one of the things we see biggest in our 3-day course as well, is like a lot of people, how do I cut hair faster, or how do I get better at cutting hair, whatever their issue is. We could probably say one thing to everybody that could change the trajectory of their whole career is have a plan. Every haircut, just take a moment. Don't just dive in and start cutting the sides and start clipper over combing and doing all this like silly shit that's just going to cause you more issues later on. Just stop for a second, have your consultation, and just take a second to be like, okay, now how am I going to do this? Have a plan. Because that's what we do, and it works out 99.999% of the time.
It's why we're less stressed than everybody else around us in all circumstances and environments, because there's a plan in place, and it's an authentic plan as well, and it not everything's riding on the moment because there's a plan. And look at main stage, for example. We were definitely the most calm people in that room, and we're so good at planning now, we don't need a plan for certain things, because our mind and our capacity is taken up by the things that actually matter most to us, not on how somebody's hair is going to look on a platform show that people are watching from afar and can't see anyway. Like, you can barely see it. It's more about the words that are coming out and the confidence and how I'm showing up. That's what people are really looking at. Like, there's a crazy stat on that around, when people are delivering workshops or education, most of the time people are actually just like looking at like how you look. Like, only 7% of the information that you actually say gets taken on board. I can't remember this exact stat. It's like 40 or 50% of it is about how you look, and then the other percentage is on like how confident you are, or like how sure you are. I don't know exactly the stat. I'll have to pull it up at some stage. But that speaks volumes, and the reason we can show up with that certainty and clarity is because we have our plan and we're working towards it, and the small moments and the flittering moments don't matter so much. And it's very easy to distinguish then, when in certain environments, who to listen to and who not to listen to, because for example, at the awards at AHFA weekend, we meet a lot of people, a lot of lovely people, but no offense to them, but they can project quite a lot onto us, especially surrounding things that they think we should be doing with our talent. And the reason we can stand so strong in it and listen to it and have respect for them in telling us these things, and I don't think it comes from a bad place. I really don't. I think most of it comes from a place of pure and good intent, but we can listen to it and have respect and thank them for it, but not go ahead and take action on it, because we know what our plan is and that doesn't fit into our plan. For example, the whole thing that we spoke about in last week's podcast about going and doing men's hairdresser of the year again. Like, no, because that doesn't fit into my plan, like, as to like where my life is going. So that's it, it's done, you know? Like, I'm not going to let that be a distraction from where I really want to go. So environment is really important for anybody who has aspirations to do what it is that they want to do in life, regardless of what the what is. Because, you know, nowadays when like I meet people, a lot of the time they project their beliefs of the world onto me. You know, like somebody saying at the awards, for example, oh, it's just such a good thing to be a finalist, isn't it? And it's like, at this stage of the game, that's an insult. Like, I'm sorry, like, you know, objectively, at this stage of the game, like 8 years in, you know, working with Dyson, you know, done all of this fucking traveling all around the world, cutting people's hair, done hair for Man United, Justin Bieber, the whole lot of those things. Like, to say that being a finalist is a good thing is like, whoa, it's just so good to be here. It's like, no. Like Drake would say, fuck all that happy to be here shit that you want me on. Like, I'm the big homie. Don't be trying to little bro me, dog. Like, that's what Drake would say. Like, don't be little broing me. Like, no, I'm not the little bro. I'm the big bro. And like, that's just not, that's their own discomfort coming out in that moment, or not knowing what to say. And again, it's from a place of pure intent. I don't think it's meant in a bad way. However, going back to the whole words being spells thing, and going back to language mattering and words mattering, what are we hearing in our environment, and how is that affecting our beliefs on an energetic level? And it's important to be able to distinguish between what is for you and what's not for you. And the only thing that will help you to distinguish those two things is having a good plan. Because when you know what your plan is and you're like, but this is my plan and this is what serves me, it stops all of the ideas coming as well. Because, you know, as creative people, sometimes we can get a lot of ideas, and like ideas will come. Oh, this is a good idea. Let's do that. I had a phone call with a guy yesterday who was like basically pitching me a new business idea. I haven't told you about this yet. And, you know, at the end of the call, he's asking me, so is this something you'd be interested in or interested in doing? And it's something to do with products, right? Like, and I'm just like, depends on the context of it. I'd have to speak further with it. But if it's going to affect the plan in any way whatsoever, then no, it's a distraction.
I love what I hear in there as well is like to trust the plan. It sounds so cliche, but like trust the process. This is the most cliche thing ever. Oh, trust the process. But it's so true. You got to have trust in your own plan. If you don't, you will be distracted. And that I think that's one of the hard things to do as well, is just trust the plan. I think one of the easier ways to trust a plan is to have a debriefing process, to have a gauge on if it's working or not. Because that like you said, that cuts out the noise, right? When you got the plan, it's working out, how do I cut out the noise? Now, to your point of all those people projecting on you, oh, isn't this great? Oh, but I would say that's people without a plan. They don't really know like where this fits into their life, into their world. You know, to steal your analogy, you know, that's the cake for some people. You know, like the winning that award is the whole cake. You know, for us, it's the cherry on the top of the cake. Our cake is something else. You know,
did we say that in the last podcast? Did I speak about that analogy in the last podcast? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but it's such a good analogy.
One. That's a good one. Let's say that in a second,
mate. Yeah, I'll just butchered it, but I'll let you say it. But you know, that's probably people without much of a plan. They don't really know where it fits in. And again, that's it's all from good intent. It's all from the heart, obviously. But like, you know, that's where we don't want to be in our lives, is doing these things. You know, like I always talk about being smacked around in the pinball machine, because that's just what life is, really. Sometimes if there's no plan, you just get smacked around, and life will do what it will with you. And something else, like I've had to help somebody just recently. You know, just a friend with their mindset in the hair world is like, again, having a plan for where it's going. I feel like hair professionals that are leaving the industry or barbers that are quitting after 5 to 8 years, for a lot of them is because they haven't had a plan. They've just been mindlessly working to no end, thinking that just doing a good fade is like the goal when it's not, because at some point that's going to get boring. And if you don't have a plan and a progression plan for your career, you're going to wake up one day and go, what the hell am I doing? And so even just by putting a time to things, just by being like, all right, in the next 12 weeks, I'm going to get this done, it cuts out the distraction. You have a gauge, and it reminds you that this won't last forever. It takes a lot of the dread and the fear out of life. It's like, oh, I just got to get this done by then. Cool. Laws of attraction, power of manifestation. I am what we write, we invite. I am writing it and I am speaking it and believing it into existence. I know what I got to do. I know what I want to do. I know when I need to do it by. All I've got to work out is how I'm going to do this, whether I need to find help or whether I already know. Get it done. It takes the fear and the anxiety out of it because you know it won't last forever. Oh, when that one's done, I move on to something else. And that's the progression path and that's the plan. So sometimes it takes a little bit to start to trust it as well. You've got to experience it happening. And that's why we celebrate the weekly wins, in our private face group. Every single Wednesday, we celebrate wins. Why? Because it's a sure, fast, quick way to start to have the lived experience of the plan working. Oh, cool. I did this week. Of course I did. Lived experience. Do it again. Next week, lived experience. And before you know it, you just start trusting in the plan. And then what we see is people are off to the races and they're like, wow, my life is just on an exponential roller coaster ride right now. It's like, yeah, because you're trusting the plan, cutting out the noise, cutting out distraction, cutting out the projections, and you're going in your own direction. But I think that takes some work. And one of the best ways to do that is to have lived experience. And for people that are struggling with a plan, if a 3-month plan, 6-month plan, 12-month plan, moving into 2024, setting your intentions, if that is overwhelming, give yourself something to do in the next week. Be like, all right, by this time next week, what do I want to do? Something small, could be something really easy. And then celebrate it when you do it. Start the lived experience. Because only then will you get the most out of a plan. Because if you don't trust it, you probably won't do it. And it's a waste of your time and it's a waste of our time putting a plan together, really. Or your coach, whoever your coach is, it's just a waste of time, really.
Yeah, the celebration piece is huge too, because there's, it's something that I could definitely improve on is, celebrating things. But like I posted on Instagram about last night, it becomes normal at a certain point,
Yeah.
And it becomes normal to be winning all the time. It's in your fucking second name.
Yep.
So it becomes a thing. So
it's funny. Last week on one of my coaching calls, one of our coaches said to me, she was like, taking me through a goal that I could hit in the next 2 weeks, and at the end of it, she was like, and how would you celebrate this once it's done? And I was like, oh, now that's a good question. And she was like, anything at all? I was like, it would be good, but like, there's more. And she was like, all right, I've got a task for you. She was like, I want you to write down all the ways that you would celebrate. And she's like, I want a list of celebrations by the next time we speak. I was like, it's quite interesting. Yeah. So I'm the same. But I think for me, it's like a little internal celebration. It's like a little, yes, okay. It's not like I do the thing and I'm completely numb. I do get that little yes moment. I'm like, fuck yeah, we did it. And then, all right, let's go again.
Yeah, same. It's just like I've built it into the whole process. Celebration is part of it. It's like, okay, let's celebrate, let's enjoy it for 10 minutes and then keep moving. Like, I don't want to fall into the piss pool of celebration where we're just fucking celebrating everything too much.
Because sometimes we go to the extremes, right? Like I spoke about the other day, being an Epicurean. That can send you into Epicurean, like pleasure seeking. Oh, I'm going to do this, because that turns into deserved energy then sometimes as well. I've done this, so I deserve this. I deserve to
I've worked
celebrate
hard.
because I did this. And that, you fall back into the work hard thing. Now it's a good system for people that can apply themselves, who can't get up and go, but like, we're not those people. It's a very interesting one. It's not like I don't celebrate. I have my little internal celebrations. I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's go again, because I know there's more to do.
Yeah, same. I feel like I have like delayed celebration, you know, like I know that the work that I'm doing now, you know, what's the opposite to the Epicurean, the Stoic philosophy? It's like what I'm doing now has long-term benefit, but at the same time, there's no certainty that I'll even get there. So like, it is important to celebrate along the way and to enjoy the journey. You know, it's such a cliche saying, but the man who loves walking will walk further than the man who loves the destination. It's not all about the destinations. It's like enjoying it as we do it and celebrating it as we go, but then knowing that there's so much more to come. Like I feel like 2024 is about to be a whole year of celebration. Like that's what I'm feeling. It's like we've been in the trenches for years now, and it's like 2024 is going to be a year of celebration. I'm moving to fucking Bali next week. Like I'm going to be living in Bali. A barber who doesn't cut hair living in Bali. Like, you know, it's just insane. And I'm going back to Europe and I see my family. I'm going to spend time there, and you know, we can still do business. We're still doing what we're doing, and like we're building something that's really valuable and fun to build. And that life in itself right now is a whole celebration. And that's what I meant by life in itself is a full celebration. And that's what I was getting at with the whole cake analogy. You know, winning men's hairdresser of the year would have been a cherry on top of the cake. There's already a few cherries on top of the cake, but the main point being is that there is a cake there. The foundation is there, and a lot of people are just trying to put icing on an empty plate. They're putting the cherry on an empty plate, but on my plate there's a nice cake stacking up from the foundations all the way through. And the danger of trying to put the cherry on top of the empty plate is that it gives you it gives people the false reality that they don't need to build a cake, because I'm men's hairdresser of the year now, so I don't need to do anything because I'm already the best. And they end up, you know, wasting 10 years of their lives, and then in 10 years time realize, fuck, maybe I should have a look at how I do business. And I could have sorted this out 10 years ago if I didn't win that fucking award, because the award gave them enough validation to not go and do the things that they need to do, because it's a false illusion that they're already there. And that can be dangerous. And that's not to say that goes for everybody, but that can just be a dangerous hole to fall into with that kind of stuff.
I love the question as well. Like, you know, the celebration of the thing is one thing, but I love the question of, so if you follow your plan and you get to the goal, how will you know? What will it feel like? How will you know? And that's such a powerful one, because that's, to me, almost better than the celebration. That's what I'm going to celebrate. I'm not going to celebrate. See, this is it. I think I found our answer. It's not about doing the thing that I celebrate, because I know I'm a driven person. I'm a results driven person. I'll do the thing. It's not the thing that I have to celebrate. It's how does that make me feel, and what does that do for me in my life that I celebrate? So what would you prefer to have, and how will you know when you're there? What are the signs in your life that will let you know that you are there? And for me, well, and I think I can speak for you as well, we wake up most days and feel that way. I'm so grateful. I have so much gratitude. There's a level of peace in my mind. There's a level of tranquility. There's a level of joy. That's what I celebrate. If I just wake up like that every day, I'm like, cool. That's a celebration in itself. And I don't forget that. You know, we remind ourselves of it every day. It's in our gratitude practice. Yep, this is great. And that's it. I think going to the extremes of the scale sometimes, like we just spoke, can pull us out of that, because it can turn into deserved energy. I deserve this because I did this. It's like, okay, so how does that make you feel? And then and how will you know when you're there? I think it's massive. So if you're thinking about building a plan, think about that as well. So when I do these things, how will that make me feel, and how will I know that I'm there? What will life show me when I'm there? Massive.
And that's how you know it's your plan, not anybody else's. Because only you know what that feeling is going to feel like for you. So yeah, I mean, look, actionable steps, actionable next steps. Book yourself into the Power of Planning, which is a free training we're going to be doing, which kind of breaks down some of our frameworks around how we plan. It will give you a good head start and a good kick start for 2024. If you're listening to this after the Power of Planning is going live, reach out to us. We'll try and send you the recording. And yeah, I mean, look, if you want to plan for 2024 to be the best year of your life, there's no better time than right now. Start looking for the people who can help you. Doesn't have to be us, you know. It could be Bloody Deluxe, it could be Bossio, it could be any of them who are doing mentorship. It doesn't have to be us, but if it is us, reach out. We'll see if we're a fit. We'll have a little chat, and we'll get you some clarity and pass you on some knowledge and wisdom and things that have helped us. You know, true wealth these days is passed down in knowledge and wisdom. No longer is it passed in material, and it never really was passed in material, because I've experienced that in my own family, and only material was really passed down to my granddad's kids, and it stopped there. The generational wealth was possible, but it stopped there, and now it's time for me to ramp that up again. So, sorry, where were we? We just didn't realize we were on a podcast there for a second. But yeah, 4th of December, I'm going to be tuning in live from Bali, becoming the evidence of how having a good plan can allow you to do these things with your life. And yeah, tune in, bring a notepad, bring some pens, bring some brain power, and let's get you set up for 2024. Got anything to say on that, Leigh?
Well, as they say, you know, failure to prepare is to prepare to fail. So, how are you going to spend the rest of your time on this wonderful spinning rock in this galaxy? Thanks for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. We appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all the things that help the algorithm push us in the places that we need to go.
And remember, keep on planning.
Bye.